Kennedy?
Thank you very much, Lucas. I believe the president said it's 33 trillion, but thank you. And while the big guy chews over his future, a shocking or maybe not so shocking new Axios report claiming Joe Biden could only muster the brain strength to get through 70% of his day at best. And I quote, from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m., Biden is dependably engaged, and many of his public events in front of cameras are held within those hours. Outside of that time range or while traveling abroad, Biden is more likely to have verbal miscues and become fatigued, aides told Axios, end quote. And, well, wouldn't you know it, that CNN presidential debate, that was held at 9 o'clock, very cruel, way after sleepy clocks out. So let's compare the Joe Biden of 2020 with whatever was left of him last week, shall we?
I do not get elected the next president of the United States because they know I know them and they know me.
We're able to make every single solitary person eligible for what I've been able to do with the with the COVID. With dealing with everything we have to do with. Look, if we finally beat Medicare.
All of those so-called dreamers, those DACA kids, they're going to be immediately certified again to be able to stay in this country and put on a path to citizenship.
And I'm going to continue to move until we get the total ban on the total initiative relative to what we're going to do with more Border Patrol and more asylum officers.
Katie, it's really difficult to watch those clips. Now, the minority leader in the House, Hakeem Jeffries, says that setbacks are just setups for a comeback. I don't know if you can come back from whatever is ailing the president. I'm not going to be like Nancy Pelosi and play armchair physician, but something is going on. And what do you think is happening at this hour?
Well, first, I would say the country is in a very dangerous position right now with the president of the United States in this cognitive state that everybody can see around the world. Lucas Tomlinson also is reporting that all U.S. military bases in Europe have been put on a heightened alert status due to a potential terrorist attack because there is credible intel to show something may happen. Wow. And this is what we are having to deal with in the commander-in-chief, only being available from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Mm-hmm. And the truth is that Democrats have known about this problem for months. I talked to a big Democratic donor, has big influence in the party probably 5 months ago, and he said we should have done this earlier. We should have had a real primary.
That was my question. Like, should they have let the primary
We didn't do it, and now we're stuck with Biden. And now they're really in a pinch, given that the DNC convention is a month and a half away. The logistics here are very difficult when it comes to ballot access, timing. Early voting starts in a lot of places in September. Yeah. And so here they are now having to not only convince everybody that what they're seeing isn't true about Joe Biden, but now they have to make the case to the American people that he's the guy who is the commander-in-chief and capable of protecting the country. And given the high stakes around the world currently, that's not being
Well, it certainly doesn't feel like he's in charge. So, you know, that leads everyone to ask, well, who is in charge? Obviously, you were a congressman for many years for the great state of Utah. What are some of your former colleagues saying about what took place this week?
That the Biden administration and the Democrats have lied to us every single step of the way. They told us that Russian laptop was, you know, it was a Russian laptop, not Hunter Biden's laptop. That was a lie. They said that the border was secure for 3 years. It wasn't safe, secure. They didn't have operational control. They told us that, you know, COVID couldn't possibly have been made in a lab. Well, that ends up being a lie. And then they've been saying that, you know, Donald Trump has got all these problems, but it's much more so than Joe Biden. They've been hiding this. Axios comes out with this report, and it says that, oh, the president can't do this, that, and the other. And I saw a smart person on Twitter say, where were these sources last week?
Yes.
This is not something
where
that
were
just
these sources
popped
during,
up.
you know, to Katie's point, where were these sources during primary season? And, you know, shame on the people who went before the cameras and like Karine Jean-Pierre, like, I can't keep up with him. He runs circles around anyone. You can put him up against anyone in the country, and he's faster than Usain Bolt.
Yeah, right. It makes you wonder, speaking of mental acuity, I mean, they've been in straitjackets trying to explain away what we all saw. And to your point, about our allies across the world who are now in fear because America is the beacon of democracy support and certainly military support. So where do we go from here is the question I think a lot of people...
I'll tell you what. You can recover from things like a stroke. And I think John Fetterman, to his credit, he is a lot better now than he was when he was first infirmed. But it feels like what the president is going through, you can't recover from that.
Exactly. So they've been asking questions. Can we replace Joe Biden? No, you cannot replace him unless you're going to declare him incapacitated, which means you're going to have to withdraw him from the presidency. And according to one of the biggest Democratic voices out there, Hunter Biden, he thinks his father should continue on as he goes through his court cases, and he needs someone to pardon him.
He needs someone to pardon him because
exactly right.
Kamala is not going to. Well, if Joe Biden bails, there is that eager White House employee waiting in the West Wing. She's got an infectious laugh and really loves Venn diagrams. Vice President Kamala Harris is sizing up the drapes as her boss decides his future, but some of the White House, they are not with her. Check out this anecdote from Axios once again, which says, quote, if Biden stays in, it's for the same reason he decided to run again. He and the oligarchy believe he has a much better chance of beating former President Trump than Vice President Harris does. But if you're breathing a sigh of relief that the nation won't get President Kamala, Van Jones has some bad news. Van?
It's hard to unsee yesterday. And it's hard to imagine the guy you saw yesterday making it 4.5 more years. And so you do have to acknowledge there is a high likelihood that a Joe Biden victory ultimately means Kamala Harris will be president. So people need to make a decision. Do you feel comfortable? Do you feel good about that?
So, Katie, in plain terms, is Vice President Harris more popular than President Biden?
She is not. Her polling has always been below President Biden, and she didn't even make it through the Democratic Party primary when she ran, so that's not helpful to her either. But the question for Democrats now as a party is not just who's going to be in charge, is Biden going to run again, what do we do with the vice president, who is very unpopular among the very small sliver of voters that they're trying to talk to, right? Like the bases on the right are locked up. Joe Biden's having a hard time keeping his coalition together, and there's this very small minority of independent, undecided voters they're all going for. And they just look at this and say, look at the position they put the country in by lying about this for months and months and months. They're making it all about the party, but people are like, we have big problems out here in America, and you guys are worried about the power struggle. We would like some solutions and some answers to these policy questions, and all you're talking about is the catastrophe that you created by trying to hide this from everybody that we could all now see out in the open.
Yeah, or, hurting Kamala's feelings. I think, to Katie's point, there's some big people issues that the country is battling right now, chief among them, inflation, not to mention immigration and wars in Israel and Ukraine.
Yeah, they played identity politics every step of the way. That's how they got Kamala Harris. They got what they deserved. This was essentially an extension of the Obama administration, their third term. I blame Barack Obama. He's the one that sold us that Joe Biden was going to be the guy, but he's in obvious decline. They should have wrapped this up last year, and Joe Biden should be on his victory lap this year and let the process play itself out. But oh no. As I said yesterday, I think Jill Biden loves being president, and there's no way she wants to give up that mantle.
That's a great point. So who is polling for the president to stay in more, Hunter or Jill?
Both.
Because they both have their own reasons
likes the magazine
for it.
Covers, he likes to stay out of
elder
jail.
abuse, so but they have their own self-interest here.
They do. They really do. And the problem they really have is they don't have a choice in this matter. The party is going to do what it wants to do. And the more we see of Joe Biden, the more he's in decline. So what are you going to do? You can't tell people that he's fine when people can obviously see that he isn't fine. And there's no one that can really step in that place outside of maybe a Michelle Obama. No one else is popular. I know she doesn't. Yeah. But then you got to be able to raise money. You got to introduce this person to the country. It's just not going to work.
There's not enough time.
It's not going to work.
I don't know of a candidate who could create the infrastructure necessary.
Well, and look, Annie Leibovitz of Vogue was at Camp David today, and unless she's doing a big wrap-up goodbye piece, I don't think Jill Biden's going anywhere.
I hope she's doing a series of nudes.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.